Today we're here to help Congress do the right thing. So Barack Obama wants a deal with Iran. We don't. And here's why. Iran's only the leading sponsor of terrorism in the world. They've got networks that all over the world, from South Asia to the Horn of Africa, from Iraq to Yemen. They have a significant network right here in the United States. And their terrorist operation reports directly to Supreme Commander Hamani, who we've been negotiating with. It's been a key supporter of Syria, where over 120,000 civilians have been killed. Constitution? Well, we're constitutionalists. Their constitution, however, is committed to the establishment of a universal holy government and the downfall of all others. Just in the last 24 hours, I think you've probably all seen it on Drudge, so the Supreme Commander told us that Israel will not exist in 25 years. Well, we're going to do something about that. So the deal that we're here for, the deal we need to stop, I mean, it's basically, it's a deal so good that Americans can't set foot in Iran to inspect the weapons. We've turned it over to the United Nations, and we know how vigilant they are. Most people believe, I believe, that this is going to kick off a nuclear arms race in the United States. It'll be pretty easy for the Saudis to buy a weapon from Pakistan, and then we're off to go. It ends sanctions. And what does that do? It releases up to $150 billion into the Iranian economy in the next 6 months. Put that in perspective. The entire economy in Iran is up $400 million. So it's like 40% of the economy is going to be provided with stimulus in the next 6 months thanks to Barack Obama. You thought TARP was bad. In the United States, the equivalent would be like $7 trillion pumped into the economy. And already you can't find a hotel in Tehran with all the businesses lined up to do business there to get some of that $150 billion. And you can bet Russia's there too. But maybe the most egregious part of this deal, and one that hasn't been written about much, is that the key piece is it lets Iran back into the world banking system through a so-called SWIFT network. And what that does is it means that they can finance their terrorist operations worldwide without anybody knowing it. And it was a big reason they came back to the table. They got exactly what they want. 4 out of 5 Americans want their senators and congressmen to vote no on this deal. Even 2 out of 3 Democrats say don't vote no on this deal. So let's make Congress do the right thing. Vote against anything that moves this deal forward.
Thank you so much, Bill Walton. Next, we're joined by the president of the Zionist Organization for America, Morton Klein.
Hi, my name is Mort Klein, president of ZOA. I am a child of Holocaust survivors, born in the displaced persons camp in Germany and lost most of my family to the Holocaust. People frequently ask me, how could the world have let the Holocaust happen? But now we see a large minority of Congress and other countries supporting a deal that will give the Nazi Germany of today, Iran, hundreds of billions of dollars to increase Islamic terrorism, obtain more sophisticated conventional weapons and missiles and ICBMs and nuclear weapons in 10 years or less. This is even though the Hitler of today, Khomeini, has rallies every week screaming death to America and death to Israel. In his new book, he calls for the Islamic regime to take over the entire world and rule it. We ignored Hitler's Mein Kampf. We dare not ignore Khomeini's works and actions. In 2 days, we're commemorating the 14th anniversary of 9/11. People don't know. A U.S. federal court concluded, after a 7-year investigation, it was Iran's leaders who planned and funded the World Trade Center attack in the mid-'80s. Al-Qaeda came in 10 years later. And Iran was funding and arming this vicious and dangerous enemy. Why do 90% of Democrats support this catastrophic deal? when only 21% of Americans support it. Senator Lindsey Graham said this week, what President Obama did was unleash his political machine, and members of Congress were told, in no uncertain terms, if they cross the president here, the Obama network will come after them forever. I've never seen pressure like this coming from a White House anytime, anywhere, said Graham. I've been told by members, they were told there won't be money for your districts if you vote against this. No national money for your campaigns. We'll run people against you in the primaries. You'll lose important positions on committees. And we will investigate your fundraising and other activities. This was mafia and Chicago politics at its worst. Finally, why is President Obama doing this? Why is he aiding and abetting America's most dangerous enemy, the Islamic Republic of Iran? Let's very briefly examine his record on his attitude to radical Islam to determine what evidence requires us to believe. For 20 years, Obama attended Jeremiah Wright's anti-America, anti-Israel church and called him a great man and my mentor. He attended the racist Islamic Farrakhan's Million Man March, refused to attend the anti-Islamic terrorism march in Paris. He refuses to use the term Islamic terrorism. He has said Hamas and Hezbollah are have legitimate concerns. He has never criticized Iran, but criticized Israel regularly. He went to get rid of Mubarak, refused to get rid of the leaders of Iran. Therefore, the evidence requires us to painfully conclude President Barack Obama is sympathetic to radical Islam. I will end by saying, this deal shows President Obama wants to make Iran great again, while Senators Cruz, Rubio, and Trump and others want to make America great again. A large minority of politicians have announced they're supporting this anti-American pro-Islamist deal. Politicians can change their minds. They do it all the time. People change their minds. Let's demand that politicians change their mind one more time. You all are great American patriots. You all love America, love freedom, love liberty. We will all fight to save America, save our allies, save the world from this Obama-Iranian tragedy. With all our hearts, with all our souls, with all our might. With your help and the help of Almighty God, we will ultimately prevail. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Morton Klein. Next, a man who knows all about economic freedom, Congressman Dave Bratt.
Thank you, Jenny Beth. How many people want to make this country great again? Honored to be with you here today. I just got a few brief remarks that have to do with leadership and this Iran deal. The Bible says you will know them by their fruits. The chief executive of this country is making a deal with Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, and will provide a legal pathway in about 12 to 14 years to a nuclear weapon. They will also give them ICBM weapons within 12 years, along with $150 billion to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, and $500 billion over the next decade. That's the world your kids are going to live in. Their goal is to strike terror into the hearts of your children. You will know them by their fruits. The United States, on the other hand, our goal is to give children, all of the world's children, a bright future. In agreeing to the Iran deal, are we producing greatness or weakness? Weakness. How is our economy doing lately? Strong or weak? How are we viewed by our adversaries? Strong or weak? How's our current foreign policy going? Strong or weak? How's our national security and the security of our border lately? Strong or weak? How's the leadership of the political class in Washington, D.C.? Strong or weak? The situation we are in right now is a product of weak leadership. Leadership in Washington is ignoring you, the American people. And hey, I'm Dave Bratt from Virginia, And I think I know what happens when leadership in Washington does not listen to their voters. As with the budget process last year and again this year, we now find ourselves in the last minute making split decisions on huge issues that will affect the very destiny of this nation. We need to stop this deal right now. A few weeks back, I voted against Corker-Cardin because it did not follow the Constitution. Today, the Senate should be voting up or down on a treaty. Leadership got us into this mess, and they're the only ones that can get us out. President Obama has not submitted all the information and all the side deals linked to the Iran deal. Mitch McConnell and John Boehner All right. They're going to cut me off. Let me finish up. McConnell and Boehner need to give Congress 60 days to review all the information. We need to make this deal a great deal and get a deal that projects American exceptionalism once again. Let me end on a strong note. Hint, the answer is strong. What's the character of the American people standing out here today? Strong. What kind of nation and future will you leave your children and grandchildren? Strong. What kind of deal do you want and demand with Iran? Strong. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Thanks for letting me say a few words. God bless you.
Thank you, Congressman Bratt. Next, we are joined by someone who has helped put this event together and has been active in the area of foreign policy far longer than I have, the president of Center for Security Policy, Frank Gaffney.
Thank you, and thank you to Jenny Beth and to the Tea Party team and to all of you representing Americans across this country by the millions who do not want this deal. I want to just share with you an insight. There was a courageous Democrat in the United States Senate by the name of Bob Menendez. When he announced that he would not support this deal, despite the pressure, despite the coercion, despite the prosecution, he said, "My name will not be on this bomb." We have here examples of two senators whose names will be on the bomb: Bill Nelson, Barbara Boxer. But the question is, ladies and gentlemen, if the Republican leaders of the United States Senate and House do not stop this deal, which they can, their names will be on the bombs. Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, that must not happen. It's my distinct privilege to say, as I ask each of you to think about something, when we are all asked in the years ahead, what did we do to stop this disaster? We were here. We were here working against it. And across the country, millions of us are doing it. We must not rest because this will not be over in the next few days. So we need your help. We need your strong support. And it is a distinct privilege to be able to introduce some of the team who are working with us in this fight. Some 240 retired generals and admirals have signed a letter saying to the United States Congress, do not do this deal. One of their leaders is retired Navy Admiral, 4-star Admiral Ace Lyons. He's accompanied by former Special Operator, retired Army 3-star General Jerry Boykin. And two others, retired Rear Admiral Mimi Drew, United States Navy, and Brigadier General Phil Drew, United States Air Force. Welcome to them, and God bless you.
I have to tell you, your presence here this afternoon says it all. You're sending a clear message to President Obama to stop this Neville Chamberlain-like appeasement deal with Iran. Now, the genesis for this tragedy, you got to go back to the summer of 2008, when President Obama was candidate Obama. And according to Michael Ledeen, he opened a secret communication channel to the Iranian theocracy. And that message was, don't do a deal with the Bush administration. Wait till I'm president. You'll get a much better deal. You will see. You will like my policies. I am your friend. They're declaring he's a friend of the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism is mind-boggling. To me, this bordered on treason and certainly was a violation of the Logan Act. Now, I have to tell you on how do we get to these negotiations. In fact, what we were doing is negotiating against ourselves. We conceded all our objectives. We also conceded our national honor. But that was not enough. We had to go on and assure Iran we would show them how to protect their facilities against the strike, sabotage, and cyber warfare. Unbelievable. But that was not enough. We then proceeded to lift sanctions that led Iran to acquire the most sophisticated conventional weapons, which will jeopardize our position in the Persian Gulf. But that was not enough. We went ahead and let them proceed with the development of their intercontinental ballistic missiles, as well as maintaining their missile site in Venezuela. But that was not enough. We went ahead and agreed to let Iran, who has lied and cheated, inspect their most sensitive military sites. Unbelievable. You can't make this up. This congressionally mandated non-nuclear sanctions must remain in place. And if the 60-day clock ever does get started, Congress must torpedo this deal. And one last thought. As Bernard Lewis said, once Iran gets the weapon, game over. Deterrence will not work. Great to be with you, and God bless America.
Thank you very much. All right, we've got a couple of really special speakers in just a moment. First, we have the Executive Director of Veterans Against the Deal, Michael Pregent. Please welcome Michael Pregent.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm going to get rushed off stage because I got a senator behind me, and then I got Mr. Trump behind me. And we want to ask Mr. Trump to add our names to the list. Veterans Against the Deal, we need some money, Mr. Trump, to keep these ads going. When we speak to senators, they don't know who Qasem Soleimani is. Do you know who he is? He's the man that has been killing Americans. He's killed over 500 Americans, injured thousands. There's a lot of veterans out there that know who he is. If a senator or a politician doesn't know who Qasem Soleimani is, they can't vote for this deal. If they know who he is, they won't vote for this deal. He is the uniformed Osama bin Laden. He's the one that's going to get all this money. He's the one that's going to get to be able to buy advanced weapons. And more importantly, he's going to be able to travel to the Middle East and North Africa to continue Iran's export of terrorism. That's not a good thing, is it? When we meet with senators and congressmen, they say they're conflicted. We say, good. That means you know you're making the wrong decision. We have veterans going back to '79. We have hostages from the Iran hostage crisis. We have family members who lost Marines in Beirut. We have Americans that lost their lives and their buddies in Iraq. And we have Americans that are still in harm's way in Afghanistan because Iran continues to fund the Taliban. Veterans Against the Deal, we don't believe that any vote that has come out for this deal is a safe vote. We believe we can change minds until they actually vote. We need your help doing that. Iran is cheating every day. The administration has all the evidence they don't want that Iran is cheating every day. And Iran has all the information they need to know that this administration will not do a thing the next 16 months. We're seeing that now. I'm going to get off stage so two great Americans can follow, but thanks for your support.
Thank you, Michael Pregent. So the Tea Party Patriots decided we were going to do an event on the West Lawn of the Capitol in September, back in May. And in July, a special senator who's been a friend of Tea Party Patriots since he was elected to the Senate had a coalition meeting with about 60 different groups. And he invited me to speak at that meeting, and I told him and the others that we'd be doing this event and wanted everyone to be able to participate. And so Senator Cruz has been leading the effort on this in the Senate. He's a great friend to the Tea Party movement, a great friend of Tea Party Patriots. He stands for freedom in America. And it's my pleasure to welcome Senator Ted Cruz.
We don't get fooled again.
God bless the United States of America. What an incredible gathering here today. I want to speak to three groups of people. I want to start by speaking to the American people. This Iranian nuclear deal is catastrophic. It is the single greatest national security threat facing America. If it goes through, there will be three consequences. Number one, the Obama administration will become, quite literally, the world's leading financier of radical Islamic terrorism. If it goes through, over $100 billion will flow directly to Iran, to the Ayatollah Khamenei. And billions of those dollars will go directly to Hamas, to Hezbollah, to the Houthis, to radical Islamic terrorists across the world. And those jihadists will use those billions to murder Americans, to murder Israelis, to murder Europeans. The second consequence of this catastrophic deal is that it abandons 4 American hostages in an Iranian hellhole, including Pastor Saeed Abedini, an American citizen, a Christian pastor, sentenced to 8 years in prison for the crime of preaching the gospel. including former Marine Amir Hekmati, including Washington Post reporter Jason Rezaian, including Bob Levinson. It is a disgrace for this administration to abandon Americans in Iranian hellholes. But the third consequence of this deal going through, if it does, is that it will facilitate and accelerate the nation of Iran acquiring nuclear weapons. There is no greater threat to the safety and security of America. There is no greater threat to the safety and security of Israel than a nuclear Iran. I agree with Prime Minister Netanyahu that a nuclear Iran poses an existential threat to the nation of Israel. And let me be clear, when he says existential, he doesn't mean a bunch of Frenchmen in black berets chain smoking. He means literally going to the very existence of Israel. When Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed a joint session of Congress, a joint session that President Obama boycotted, that Vice President Biden boycotted, that every member of the cabinet boycotted. I participated in a panel discussion with Elie Wiesel, the Nobel laureate, the Holocaust survivor. And Elie Wiesel observed the one threat on the face of the earth capable of murdering 6 million Jews in an instant, in a flash of light, is a nuclear Iran. Elie Wiesel observed, never again means never again. The second group I want to address are Democratic senators and Democratic members of Congress. Right now, today, 42 Senate Democrats have come out in support of this deal. It is my hope and prayer that every one of those Senate Democrats reconsiders, that they go home and they fall to their knees and they pray tonight. I agree with former Democratic Senator Joe Lieberman that this vote is quite likely the most important vote that any member of Congress, any member of the Senate will cast in their entire career. There was a time when there was a tradition of Scoop Jackson Democrats, of JFK Democrats, of Joe Lieberman Democrats, of Democrats who were willing to defend national security. Sadly, that is becoming rarer and rarer in today's Congress. So to every Democratic senator, they are facing a choice. Do you value the safety and security of the United States of America? Do you value standing with our friend and ally, the nation of Israel? Do you value the lives of millions of Americans? Or do you value more party loyalty to the Obama White House? To every Democratic senator who said he or she will support this deal, I ask you to consider, how will you look in the eyes of the mothers and fathers of our soldiers, the hundreds of soldiers, American soldiers, who were murdered in Iraq with Iranian IEDs that came from General Soleimani? This deal lifts sanctions on General Soleimani. Tell me, if you're a Democratic senator, how you look a mom in the eyes and say, I voted to lift sanctions on the man who murdered your son when he was defending this nation. But beyond that, when we talk about terrorism, it's worth remembering that if this deal goes through, we know to an absolute certainty, people will die. Americans will die, Israelis will die, Europeans will die. Osama bin Laden never had $100 billion. He was filled with bilious hatred and, using rudimentary tools, murdered nearly 3,000 Americans on September 11th, 2001. We're now talking about giving the Ayatollah Khamenei, a theocratic homicidal maniac who hates America every bit as much as bin Laden did, giving him $100 billion to carry out his murderous plan. I want to ask every Senate Democrat, how will you look in the eyes of the mother or father or sons or daughters of those who are murdered by jihadists, those Americans who were blown up, those Americans who were shot, those Americans who were killed, those Israelis who were murdered. And let me be clear. If you vote to send billions of dollars to jihadists who have pledged to murder Americans, then you bear direct responsibility for the murders carried out with the dollars you have given them. You cannot wash your hands of that blood. And let me say to Republican leadership, well, hold on. I come not to bury Caesar, but to praise him. I want to give a path forward. There are two men in Washington, D.C. who can defeat this deal. Their names are Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Speaker John Boehner. Under the terms of the Corker-Cardin review legislation, the clock does not begin ticking until the president hands over the entire deal, and he has not handed over the side agreements. What that means is that all that has to happen is for Mitch McConnell and John Boehner to say the congressional review period has not started. Under federal law, it is illegal for Obama to lift sanctions. Now, this is a lawless president. So the odds are significant, even if Congress did that, this president would ignore the law and try to lift sanctions. But I want in particular to speak to the CEO and the board of director and general counsel of every financial institution, every bank that is holding frozen Iranian money. If this president behaves illegally and decrees you can hand that money over to Iran, let me tell you now, that does not exempt you from the legal obligation to follow the law. And any bank that listens to this president and releases billions to an international terrorist like the Ayatollah Khomeini will face billions of dollars in civil liability and litigation. And there will come a president who is not named Barack Obama. Mitch McConnell and John Boehner can stop this deal if they simply enforce federal law. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, the single greatest risk is they would take that nuclear weapon, they would put it on a ship anywhere in the Atlantic, and they would fire it up straight into the air, into the atmosphere. They would set off what's called an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse. It would take down the electrical grid on the entire eastern seaboard and kill tens of millions of Americans. We can stop that. But if Senate Democrats decide that party loyalty matters more than national security, and if Republican leadership decides that a show vote is more important than stopping this deal, then the single most important issue in 2016 will be stopping Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. And any commander-in-chief worthy of defending this nation should be prepared to stand up on January 20th, 2017, and rip to shreds this catastrophic deal. Any commander-in-chief worthy of defending this nation should be prepared in January 2017 to look in the eyes of the Ayatollah Khomeini and say, under no circumstances does Iran, led by a theocratic Ayatollah who chants death to America, under no circumstances will Iran be allowed to acquire nuclear weapons. And if Iran will not stop its nuclear program, we will stop it for you. I want to thank everyone here for this rally. I want to thank Tea Party patriots. I want to thank the pro-Israel groups, the national security groups. I want to thank my friend Donald Trump for joining us today. I want to thank the leaders of Congress who are here, and I want to thank the American people. Let's rise up and tell every elected official in Washington, no more talk, no more show votes. Get it done. Stop this deal. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. Before I introduce our next guest, I want to just thank all of the Tea Party patriots who are here today, who are watching on our live stream, who get our emails and who respond to our emails and help make this event possible. Thank you so much for all that you do to make these events like this possible. Thank you, Tea Party patriots. Our next guest really doesn't need much of an introduction. Businessman Donald Trump.
It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's such an honor. I was called by Senator Cruz a few days ago, and he said, do you think we can get a really good crowd out here to protest this incompetent deal? And I said, boy, can we get a crowd. And that was 3 days ago, and look what shows up. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you. So I've been doing deals for a long time. I've been making lots of wonderful deals, great deals. That's what I do. Never, ever, ever in my life have I seen any transaction so incompetently negotiated as our deal with Iran. And I mean never. Now, Ted and everybody else have gone through all of the details, and we can talk about the 24 days, which is ridiculous. We can talk about the $150 billion, which, by the way, they get, even if the deal isn't approved, they get it just for going to the table. We can talk about the fact that we have 4 wonderful people over there, and frankly, they're never going to come back with this group. And I will say this. If I win the presidency, I guarantee you that those 4 prisoners are back in our country before I ever take office. I guarantee that. They will be back before I ever take office because they know that's what has to happen, okay? They know it. And if they don't know it, I'm telling them right now. So I have a story that just came out an hour ago, and as President Obama calls him very routinely, he calls him the supreme leader. Our president is calling the person who is really the boss in Iran supreme leader, and I look at people shaking their heads, they can't believe it. But it just came out a little while ago. He said Israel will not exist in 25 years. Think of that. He just said this. He also said very strongly, very, very strongly, that this is the end of our dealings with the United States. We want nothing more to do with them. We're not going to do anything right here. We made this deal. It's a phenomenal deal. We're not going to deal with the United States anymore. And that's what he just said. And this was a very short period of time ago. So they rip us off. They take our money. They make us look like fools. And now they're back to being who they really are. They don't want Israel to survive. They will not let Israel survive with incompetent leadership like we have right now. Israel will not survive. And then when it's all done, or they think it's all done, they come out with these unbelievable, nasty statements that Israel won't be around in 25 years and that we have no dealings and we will have no further dealings with the United States. Now, the people that we were negotiating with and were working on the sanctions with including, and as an example, Russia, who's selling tremendous missiles to Iran. You know that. Ballistic missiles being sold. All of these countries are going to do business with Iran. They're going to make lots of money and lots of other things with Iran. And we're going to get nothing. Nothing. We are led by very, very stupid people. Very, very stupid people. We cannot let it continue. We are a country that owes $19 trillion. We lose everywhere. We lose militarily. We can't beat ISIS. Give me a break. We can't beat anybody. Our vets are being treated horribly. It will change. We will have so much winning if I get elected that you may get bored with winning. Believe me, I agree. You'll never get bored with winning. We never get bored. We are going to turn this country around. We are going to start winning big league on trade, militarily. We're going to build up our military. We're going to have such a strong military that nobody is going to mess with us. We're not going to have to use it. I really, really appreciate this tremendous crowd. We are going to make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald Trump. Our next guest, while the press does their thing, I'm going to have you do one other thing as the press is doing that. Our next guest, you know from his radio program. He's a friend of Tea Party Patriots. He's a friend of the freedom movement, the liberty movement. He's written extensively about it. And what you may not know is he has a new role, and he's the editor-in-chief of Conservative Review. You can get information from Conservative Review just by going to conservativereview.com. And just to make sure you remember that, because you're never going to because it's so hot out here, take your phone out and to the number 38470. Again, 38470. Text the word Levin. Just text Levin to 38470. That'll give you information on what he has going on. Our next guest is a friend of yours, a friend of Freedom's, and a friend of mine, Mark Levin.
Thank you for coming, except for those malcontents over there. We're here to tell the world that we, the American people, reject the cowardice and surrender by our government to the genocidal terror regime in Iran. We are here to tell the world that we, the American people, are more resolute than ever. We are more resolute than ever to destroy those who threaten to wage war against us, our society, and our ally Israel. This enemy makes a grave